Hi, this is Stephen Key, and today I want to talk a little bit about what happened to me when I was on my journey to be a product developer and licensing ideas. And I want to tell you straight up, be careful of who you're listening to because it could have an impact on your success. Okay, here we go. I'm a young man. I'm enrolled at Santa Clara University. I'm studying economics, and I realized, I wasn't wild about economics. I wasn't wild about business. So I took an art class to take the load off of my shoulders and do something different. And I realized during that art class that I loved working with my hands. It was truly magical. So I went home, I told my dad, I said, Dad, I want to be an artist. And he said, what? I said, yeah. And he said, well, you must like to draw. And I said, well, no. He said, well, you must like to paint. And I said, well, no. So he said, look, if you can find something you truly love to do, you'll never work a day in your life. He gave me permission to jump off that ledge to find something I really wanted to do. So I changed majors, went over to San Jose State University and started studying art. And I realized quickly I wasn't going to be this great artist and I wasn't really great at business. So I was just going to make things because I wanted people to enjoy the things that I was making. So I started selling my work at street fairs and county fairs for about 5 years. Now, you have to realize my friends, my family, they weren't really wild about it. They couldn't understand what I was doing. My friends were buying cars and getting married, and here I'm at. Here I'm, selling stuff at the table and not really getting very far. But I'm loving it. So I'm 28 years old now, and my car broke down. And my father picked me up, and he was taking me back to where I was staying. I was staying in this little apartment in Fremont. And as we're driving down the freeway, my father, like I told you, gave me permission. But now years later, he'd never said anything to me about me pursuing that. But during that day, as we're driving down the freeway, this red convertible Porsche went flying past us. And I looked over at that, and I looked over at my dad, and I said, someday I'm going to get that car. And my father said, well, not in my lifetime. And you would think I would have been really upset at that, but I really wasn't, because from his perspective, it looked impossible. I was 28 years old, I didn't have a job, and I was living with some other people in an apartment, and I was still doing the same thing over and over again. But things changed. I read an article in Fremont about the startup company called Worlds of Wonder. And they had this talking teddy bear, and it didn't look very good. It was a prototype, and I thought I could make it look cuter. And so the very next day, on Monday, I went down to Worlds of Wonder. It was on Technology Drive in Fremont. I knocked on the door, and I said, hey, I can make Teddy look a little cuter. I'm a plush designer. I can make stuffed animals. I was doing all this stuff at street fairs and stuff like that. And they were interested in it because they knew they needed someone that knew a little bit about pattern making stuffed animals. So they asked me to come back to do a second interview with one of the founders, Larry Lynch. And I was so excited. This could be my opportunity. So I went out and bought a jacket. And I remember that second interview. I was so excited. I was meeting the founder of Worlds of Wonder, Larry Lynch. And the interview went fantastic. And when I got back to this apartment, I lifted my arm, and there was the price tag hanging from my jacket. I was so embarrassed. But they gave me the job anyway. It was my first job. I'm 28 years old. And I remember calling my dad, and I said, I got a job. And he said, doing what? And I said, I don't really know, but I'm with this toy company. Well, everything changed. That company, Worlds of Wonder, we launched 2 #1 hit toys, Teddy Ruxpin and Laser Tag, and I got to travel the world. I got to meet amazing people. I got to meet the people at Disney because we made a talking Mickey Mouse. And I even got to meet the people at Henson that were doing the Muppets because we were doing the talking Muppets. It took me around the world. And my life had changed. And a year later, I had bought a condominium. I'd met Janice. And I went down to buy that red convertible Porsche. And I remember pulling up to my dad's house in that red convertible Porsche and showing him I made it, that it was possible. And he came out, he saw it, and he had a smile on his face, and he didn't say anything. I think deep down he knew I could do it. And I was so proud of that moment. But I learned a couple things. Number one, don't count anybody out. I will never count anybody out because they counted me out. But things can change in a moment. It only takes one idea for everything to change. So I will never count anybody out. Number two, you need to surround yourself with people that are thinking like you. I had met my mentor, Steve Askin, and I had some people that really cared about me, and they helped me. Be careful who you're listening to. Be careful of people throwing those barriers in front of you. Surround yourself with people that see your dream, that are pursuing the same dream, because that can impact you making the next steps. All right. So anyway, this is Stephen Key. Thank you for letting me tell that story. I told that story the other day on LinkedIn, and people seem to really resonate with that story. So I'm a big believer you can do it. Keep on watching this channel. I'm going to go through this whole process of product licensing where you can share your creativity with the world. Thank you very much. This is Stephen Key.